Hello out there. We're on the air. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Bitcoin Journey. Wow, the chat is non-existent this morning. Everybody shy on Friday or what? Everybody too shy? It's good to see you. I see there's some people in the chat, or not in the chat, but in the stream. So let's check over on the Zap.stream. Maybe it's more active than this one. This one's a snooze fest. There we go. Okay, Johnny, good morning, my friend. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. It is a great day to be alive, that's for sure. I got a couple tips here to start the show, but before we do, welcome YouTube, welcome you Zap.stream, Daily Bitcoin Journey. This is actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and for future Bitcoiners. It's good to see you. Dan is in the house. Jan is in the house. I think that's how you say it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jan looks the most correct pronunciation there. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Rock and roll. Good morning, all Bitcoiners. No, good morning, all Bitcoin team. Always winning. Feels like it. Price hasn't moved for about a month, it seems like. But the good thing about the show is we're not too focused on the price. We're focused on the other aspects of Bitcoin. Over in the Zap.stream chat, Crypto Heathen is there and Letha is there. I'm going to be putting my focus on, maybe I'll put Zap.stream over on this side today. I wonder how that would look. I neglected completely the live chat yesterday on Zap.stream, so I got to make it up. Okay, what the heck just happened? Where did everything go? Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back. Yikes. Okay, Johnny stacked some cheap sats this morning. It's a good day for it. I usually buy on Friday. Friday is buy day. Buy Bitcoin and buy SEP day. Friday buy day. So let's start the show here. I got 3 ways to have the best Friday of your life today. Number 1, watch the Bitcoin journey, which you already are. You're here. Number 2, pour yourself a coffee and add some Baileys to it. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Oh yeah, you can. Friday, so we got some Baileys in there. This one's a maple one. It's Cabot Trail maple. Look here. And number 3, at any point today, turn on the Remember the Titans soundtrack. Listen to the whole thing. There's a couple bad ones on there, but for the most part, it'll get you in the best Friday mood ever. So there it is. 3 ways to have the best Friday of your life today. Let's get right to her. We got a lot to talk about today. The title of the show is Starting Your Own YouTube Channel. I'm sure most people were a little bit thrown off by that one, but hear me out. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later on the show. And I think that starting your own YouTube channel, starting your own Zap.stream channel is going to be kind of the future of things as we move into this new world. So I'm going to explain that. But first, as Julie Chen would say on Big Brother, but first, let's get to the metrics. Any Big Brother fans out there? Where is it? There we go. I used to be a religious Big Brother watcher, but no longer. And the reason I'm not is because they just took it too far. They took it too far with the whole thing back in 2020. This is, okay, I'll take this off the screen for a second. But this is how crazy it was back in 2020 or 2021, whenever that whole thing was going on. This is how crazy it was. First of all, when that happened, it was in March 2020. And I remember Big Brother Canada was on. And they were already in the house. So Big Brother, there's like, I don't know how many people in there, 20 people in this house, isolated. They're in this house. All of a sudden, the world shuts down. They also stopped the Big Brother too. So these people are already in their own house before any of this happened. They shut down the show. But then after that, the thing that made me never watch another episode again was when these people would come out of the house. They do their little exit interview with Julie Chen. She was the host of Big Brother. The people who were in the house the whole time, isolated by themselves, they would put on a mask to come out of the house. They'd sit 30 feet apart from Julie. So it was like a widescreen view of Big Brother, 30 feet apart. The contestants wearing a mask, and Julie Chen, who was not in the house, who has been outside in the world, was not wearing a mask. So that was it for me. That was the last episode I ever watched, and I will probably never watch another one again. So there you have it. Jason says, love them changes, Buddy Miles. Yep. I think that's the song I was just listening to right before I pressed start stream. Remember the Titans soundtrack. Ooh, there's some good ones on there. What's the other one? I Want to Take You Higher is one. Peace Train is another. Spill the Wine. And I like that one too. Them Changes. Okay, anyways, back to the metrics here. We got to remember this is a Bitcoin show. So we are at block height 837,824 this morning. The fees are incredibly low. Holy, I should have done my walkthrough yesterday at this. I would have saved about 5,000 sats probably. 6 sats per VByte. Yesterday, if you were here, if you were watching the show, I paid 28 sats per VByte. It started at 10, ended up at 28. We went through 3 RBFs replaced by fees. So that was interesting. I got some good feedback on that one yesterday. A lot of people were entertained. It was quite the show. It was a long one, but I think that it was a good show. I want to follow up on one thing with yesterday's show. So at the end of that, I think that's a really good place for people to start. I'm going to take this off the screen. I think that's a pretty good place to start for a lot of people is the Sparrow wallet. Even if you don't have any sort of device, if you don't have anything else, just start with the Sparrow wallet because it just has so much more functionality with it. You can manage your UTXOs. You can set your own fees. I would also recommend watching a couple of YouTube videos on Sparrow wallet and just looking at the different features that are involved with that. So that's kind of where you want to start. But from there, you're actually going to use Sparrow wallet with your cold card. And if you are somebody who's serious about Bitcoin, I would say with a threshold of like 25 million sats or a quarter of a Bitcoin, that's where I would strongly consider getting a cold card. And if you are somebody who has like a Trezor, a Ledger, anything else, I would honestly consider getting a cold card because you have to remember that all those devices, they're all USB and you're plugging those devices into your laptop and you have to consider where your laptop has been in terms of websites, in terms of emails, in terms of many different things. So you're plugging your life savings, your own bank, you're plugging your own bank into a corrupted laptop. Probably isn't the best idea. So with the cold card, you don't actually plug it into the laptop. You just save it onto a little micro SD card and you sign the transaction, you save it and you load it back onto the laptop. And you use Sparrow wallet to connect that. That's kind of the interface for your cold card. So strongly would consider that. I forgot to mention that yesterday. I wanted to mention it today. They are a Canadian company. They are by far, from my experience and from just listening to other Bitcoiners who I trust online, cold card is the top of the security hierarchy. So you don't want to mess this stuff up. If you've taken the time, if you've taken the energy to put into Bitcoin, your life's work into Bitcoin, you have to make sure that it's safe. So I don't know if there's a referral code in my description or not. I do have one though. So I think you get like 5% off a cold card using that one. So check it out. I've helped quite a few people in the last year get set up on a cold card. It's not too hard to do, but it's also not very straightforward. So if you do need help, just shoot me an email, 88sats@proton.me. Pomp is in the house this morning. Good to see you, my friend. It must be nighttime over there. Has to be. Where did the Zappy stream go? There it is. Phoenix Falconer is also over in the Zap.stream chat. There's 9 viewers in there right now. Welcome. Good to see you, everybody. If you are somebody who's tired of YouTube, wants to try something new, consider checking out Zap.stream. All you need to do there is type in bitcoinjourney.ca/stream, and it'll take you right there to my stream. It's a redirection. Or you can just go to Zap.stream and I'll be on the front page there and you can find it. It's pretty good. It's the Bitcoin version of YouTube. That's what we'll call it. So we got some friendly faces over in that chat this morning. Yes, rock and roll. This was on my list this morning, but that's good. I appreciate you bringing it up. Today is Satoshi Nakamoto's 49th birthday. Satoshi entered the 5th of April when he registered the Peer-to-Peer Foundation. So happy birthday, Satoshi. Cheers. Carl's in the house once again this morning. Welcome back. Good to see you. And Rick, more smashing of the like, please. Always more smashing of the like. We can never have enough of that. It's been good though. Last couple weeks, we've been getting quite a few likes, quite a few comments. And that's what really helps this channel get in front of more eyes. And that's the whole point of this, is to get there's going to be, over the next year and a half, as Bitcoin continues to go up in price, there's going to be a lot of people who are Googling Bitcoin, how to buy Bitcoin, how to store Bitcoin. And we want to make sure that we get them on the right track instead of steering them down the altcoin routes. The thing about YouTube and the thing about the altcoin people is they use a lot of like flashy things like 20x this month or God candle, all this kind of stuff. And that's how they get people to watch their show. But I don't know. I just wish that more people would really understand Bitcoin. And I was golfing last night. I was golfing here in town. And the guy I was playing against, we had a really good conversation about Bitcoin. He has a little bit of Bitcoin. He's actually part of the 88 Sats project, the golf and Bitcoin project. And so we had a really good conversation about Bitcoin after the round. And he was just he asked a lot of really good questions. Probably the most intelligent conversation I've had with somebody who doesn't, really understand Bitcoin, but he was asking all the right questions. And one of the questions he asked was, how long did it take you to understand Bitcoin and get it? And I said, it's not something that really happens, but I do remember the very first time that I heard somebody talk about it. I told him that it just takes one conversation with somebody who knows what they're talking about in Bitcoin to change somebody's mind and open their mind. You have to go into it with an open mind, and you have to have an actual conversation about it. Because if you go on YouTube or on Google and just type in Bitcoin, the stuff that you're going to find on there is just like pure insanity. And so I think that really turns a lot of people off. So I said, like, I can't talk to every single person in this town, never mind this province or this country. It's impossible. But I do think, and if you think about yourself and how you got into Bitcoin, it probably wasn't a video or I shouldn't say that. It probably wasn't like a 5 or 10 minute video about it or what it is. It was an actual conversation with somebody who has a deep understanding of Bitcoin, because then they can actually relate to you and what your world is, and then explain it to them in that sense, instead of going all technical and a bunch of different jargon and why it's so great. If you can actually relate it to where they are and have an intelligent conversation about that, I think that that's how you actually get people into Bitcoin. So people have to feel the pain, which we're feeling right now. I'm sure if you're in Canada, in the US, anywhere in the world, you feel some sort of pain in terms of how much everything costs right now. So then you have to explore the money, which we never learned about growing up in school ever. Nobody ever taught us where the money comes from, who gets to decide, how much money is printed every year. None of that was ever talked about in school. So that's kind of, I wanted to share that story because I'm sure most people in this chat can relate to that. So, and I said that's the reason I started this YouTube channel, is because I can't have a conversation with every single person in this town and in this province, but you have to just talk things through and look at it through many different lenses. And eventually, after a while, it will click with people. Look at this. Pomp says, I was actually planning to start a YouTube channel about my financial independence, retire early with Bitcoin. My man. There we go. That's you're going to like the show then today. So Letha says, where does the 88 come from in 88 sats? That's a great question. So 88, I don't know. 8's always been my favorite number. I was born in the year 1988. Give away my age a little bit there. But that's kind of what started it. And then so what the idea was there is that we were going to buy some Bitcoin as a group. We're going to buy some Bitcoin. We're going to hold on to that Bitcoin for at least 5 years, probably 10, maybe more years. But at the end of that, once the purchasing power of Bitcoin increases enough, the end goal there was to start or buy our own golf course. So everybody put in a certain amount of Bitcoin. We're holding that Bitcoin in a multi-signature setup right now. 88 people. And I feel like 88 was just the perfect number for everything. It kind of worked out to be about $200 or $250 for people. So it wasn't a huge buy-in. 88 people, I feel like it's enough, but it's not too much where you can actually make a real difference. And everything that we do within that group, we vote on. So we obviously, everybody's bought. We haven't really done too much in there yet, but the major decisions within that group are all voted on. So it's completely decentralized, just like Bitcoin. But the other cool part of that is that with those 88 people, probably 84 of them, at least, let's just say 80 of those 88 people did not have Bitcoin before that. And I want to put an emphasis on people actually having to buy the Bitcoin and send it to the wallet instead of just sending me like $250 or $300 and me buying the Bitcoin. Everybody went through the process of buying Bitcoin and sending it to the wallet. So it is really cool. It still is really cool. It's kind of slowed down a little bit since we first got going, but I mean, that was kind of expected. It's a very long-term play. We got a couple different things that we're going to be putting into place over the years. It's just, you kind of just have to take it slow, be very patient. So that's where the 88 comes from in 88 sats. That's what this YouTube channel was formed around. Crypto Heathen says, I'm not 100% Bitcoin only. I think there are some legitimate use cases for all coins. That said, Twitter and YouTube are overrun with meme coin nonsense. Yes. Nostr is a nice reprieve. Not joining Nostr has been the best. I've said this a couple times now, but joining Nostr has been the best decision of my Bitcoin life, we'll call it. So many great people on there. I've learned so much from being on there, and you can pretty much find any sort of information that you want on Nostr. I don't really use Google too much anymore, just for like if I need an address or if I need to find something really fast. But if I actually want to find valuable information, I always just go to Nostr. So that's that. Noah is also in the chat over in zap.stream. I forgot to change I wonder if I can change it on the fly here, if that will screw things up. Let's test out zap.stream here, see how good it is. Hopefully Kieran's not in the chat for this. I'm going to change the title of the show on the fly. I'm going to call it Starting Your Own Zap.stream channel. Really customize it. And the goal, once again, is just because we can. Because we can send Bitcoin, we're allowed to. Okay. So there we go. There we have it. I think that worked. Sachi's in the house. Good morning, my friend. Darwin's, oh, look at that name. Wow. What a name and what a comment. Says, you are so undervalued. I'm waiting for you to hit 100,000 subs. Thanks. I really appreciate that. That's the kind of stuff that got going. That's for sure. Well, we'll get there. I mean, 100K subs isn't really the end goal here. The end goal here is to find the right people, not 100,000 people. If you ever have 100,000 people, it's usually a bunch of of junk in there. So I'd rather have 1,000 good people in here. Carl says you're just a pup. Yeah. Pomp, here's a question. So is it reasonable to sell some of your Bitcoin to rebalance or diversify to other traditional assets after 5 years? No. That's a myth. That's a myth that people will tell you. The thing with Bitcoin, and what I hope to really get across as a message over time here with this channel, is that you should be buying Bitcoin and you should never sell that Bitcoin, ever. Because if you really understand where we are today, we're 15 years into this thing. 15 years. It took the internet about 30 years to really catch on. We're 15 years into this thing. And if you understand scarcity, and if you understand how the exponential growth works in terms of Bitcoin, and if you're somebody who believes that one day everything will be valued in Bitcoin, everything will be measured in Bitcoin, then you should absolutely never sell your Bitcoin. And we talked about spending Bitcoin before, and that's essentially just taking your monthly expenses, putting it into Bitcoin, the money that you would already be spending essentially. So you're not selling Bitcoin to buy something, or you're not selling Bitcoin to get cash. You're just spending Bitcoin, and the purchasing power of that Bitcoin every month should go up. But you want to keep a small portion of that in cash too, for the days like we've had this week where the price dropped a little bit. So I wouldn't say that, Pomp. I wouldn't say to sell your Bitcoin to rebalance. I think that you should be slowly moving all of your assets over into Bitcoin. As your education, as your knowledge of Bitcoin grows and your conviction gets stronger, that's when you start rebalancing your other assets into Bitcoin. And so that's what I would say on that. Phoenix Falconer says, I noticed BTC Sessions YouTube channel is blowing up fast, near 200,000 subscribers. Yeah, he's been doing a lot of really good things in Bitcoin and helping a lot of people. When you help people, people help you. When you add value, people give value back to you. That's how it works. That's how the world works. And you can try to fight that. You can get lucky sometimes, but at the end of the day, that's all that there is to it. And big shout out to Daniel. He just zapped 121 sats over on zap.stream Friday. Cheers to that. That's going to the Because We Can fund. We're about halfway to our goal there of 8.888 sats, or 8,000 sats. Darwin says, what price did you get on Bitcoin? This is slowly turning into a little Q&A session again today, but that's okay because we didn't really get to do it yesterday. What price did I get into Bitcoin? I think that it was probably around 15,000, maybe a little bit lower than that, but I didn't buy much. I bought it just essentially as a hedge. So when I first got into cryptos, I was about 95% other things and 5% Bitcoin. So I bought a small amount of Bitcoin at that time, but nothing that is worth even really talking about. And then of course, once I learned Bitcoin, once I learned the differences between Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies, that's when I started just buying Bitcoin and slowly over time moving all of those cryptos into Bitcoin. So I was definitely buying at the peak of the market in 2021. I think it was 2021. Yeah, it was, because I sold my rental house and I bought Bitcoin. But I didn't get a whole lot of Bitcoin for it. I should have waited about 2 or 3 months and I would be in a much better financial position than I am right now. But that's part of it. I mean, 3 years ago is better than 3 years from today. So the best time to buy Bitcoin was 10 years ago. The second best time to buy Bitcoin is today. And I've talked to a lot of people who said that they, one of the famous stories with a lot of people is like, oh, I almost bought Bitcoin back in 2013. Somebody tried to tell me to buy Bitcoin back in 2014. And it's like, you could have bought it, but unless you really understood Bitcoin, if you're getting into it just to turn a quick buck and make some profit, you wouldn't have that Bitcoin 10 years later. There's no way. So not only would you have been tempted to many times sell your Bitcoin, also it's pretty hard to store Bitcoin back in the day. It's pretty easy now if you know what you're doing, but there wasn't a BTC Sessions YouTube channel back then. It was very hard to understand how to buy Bitcoin and how to hold Bitcoin. So people like living in the what if world, but you didn't buy it and you probably wouldn't still have it. So all you can do now is just buy some today. There you have it. There's a little mini rant for the day. Okay, 25 minutes in and we haven't touched on one thing on this thing today. Okay, so the quote for today, let's start with this. Well, not start with this, but let's continue with this. The quote I wanted to share with you, and this ties into the YouTube channel. But the quote today is from my favorite country music artist, and his name is Kip Moore. And I don't know if this is his quote or not, but he said it before one of his documentaries in kind of the intro. And the quote is, to make yourself uncomfortable because comfort causes the spirit to die. Make yourself uncomfortable because comfort causes the spirit to die. So if you're thinking about doing something, if you're thinking about starting your own business, if you're thinking about starting your own YouTube channel, it is going to be uncomfortable. But that's okay, because that's what keeps things lit here inside you. So that's how I wanted to start the show today. It was 26 minutes into it, but that's how things go. So that's the quote for today. Let's get into some of the news for today. Got a couple things, not much, but a couple things. Did we even do the metrics yet? Pretty distracted today. No, we didn't. The fees, 6 sats per VByte, the deal of a lifetime if you're transacting on Bitcoin Layer 1 today. The price from yesterday pretty much didn't move. It was 66,353, and today it's 66,478. And 1 year ago, it also didn't move. Last year at this time, it was 28,170. And today's version of that is 28,175. So zero movement between April the 4th and April the 5th, 2 years in a row. 4 years ago today, you could have purchased one Bitcoin for $6,805. So this is kind of when I think that I bought it for the first time, was when it started running up after the halving. And I think that there'll be a lot of people in this cycle, once it starts really running up, once it gets past the all-time high, which it already has. But once it starts getting up to 100, 120, that's when more and more people, that's when new Bitcoiners are going to be born. Moscow time today, $1 is equal to 1,506 sats. And with that cycle, the cool thing and the genius behind Bitcoin is there is a lot of psychology behind it. So whoever invented Bitcoin, shout out to Satoshi, his birthday today, but they knew that cycle, that halving cycle, was going to bring a whole bunch of new Bitcoiners in every 4 years. And from that, I was one of those people. And look at 4 years later, I'm sitting here every single morning talking about Bitcoin. That's how things change. So there will be people who buy the cycle and then they sell when it doubles or when it does whatever. But there will also be a small percentage of people who stick around. And the people who stick around have that conviction, and they're going to be the ones who never sell their Bitcoin. And so you can see how this whole thing ties in, where the 4 years new people come in and the supply goes down. Like, could you ever think of a better economic recipe than that? No, that's the answer, is no. The price today in Canada is 90,164 Canadian monopoly illusionary dollars. Moose Jaw time today, which is the equivalent of the Canadian Moscow time, 1 loonie will get you 1,110 sats. There you have it. Some news for today. One thing I wanted to ask people here, and this was kind of a follow-up from a video that I did earlier in the week. But yeah, Rock and Roll says most back then nostr got rugged from exchanges because there wasn't the devices that we have now. There wasn't a cold card to store your Bitcoin. So most people just left their Bitcoin on the exchanges and thought that that's how they owned Bitcoin. And then when these exchanges went down, like Mt. Gox or FTX, there was a couple more earlier than that. But They just lost their Bitcoin. So be happy you're here today. What was I talking about there? Oh yeah. So I talked about the guy who took out 8 credit cards to buy Bitcoin. He maxed out 8 credit cards. He's up about $50,000 on it so far. But I had a question on YouTube. Somebody asked, how did he buy Bitcoin with credit cards? And I didn't know the answer to that. I started thinking about it. I thought, do any exchanges take credit for Bitcoin? I couldn't think of any. So let me know, because I kind of want to reply to this guy on. I said that he probably took out cash, like a cash advance, and bought Bitcoin with that. But the guy countered me and said that he wouldn't be able to get the 0% APR with a cash advance, which makes sense. So I don't know of any exchanges that take credit cards for Bitcoin. So I'm interested if anybody in this chat or in this community here knows about that. That would be helpful, so I could reply to him. Not that I want to like big dog him. I said I'm going to have to investigate. So that usually means asking Nostr or asking the channel here. Holy, it's quiet today. I think I just heard a mouse fart outside. Darwin says, are you against buying alts that grow more than Bitcoin to buy back Bitcoin? Yeah. I'm not against it. I wouldn't tell you to do anything, but I just don't see anything outpacing Bitcoin for the next forever. Actually, I think that you might, if you're paying close attention to it and you get lucky and find this meme coin that goes up and you sell at the perfect time and cash out and buy Bitcoin. Most people don't have time for that, including myself. And I think that over the long run, nothing is even going to come close to Bitcoin. And I think that Bitcoin's actually going to completely decouple from everything this cycle, simply because there's just so much capital coming into Bitcoin. There's so much investment coming into Bitcoin. The ETFs is one thing, but when the price goes up and everybody starts wanting Bitcoin, and that's when the investment starts happening. So all of these big companies are going to start investing their time and resources into implementing Bitcoin. And when that happens, over time, in the long run here, so much is just going to flow into Bitcoin, and none of that is going to go into the altcoins. I shouldn't say none, but a very small percentage of that. So I do think that this is the cycle where Bitcoin's really going to decouple from everything else, but I could be wrong. So that's the beauty of the show, it's a free show. Anything could happen, but kind of my advice with the altcoins is like, and this applies to pretty much anything in Bitcoin. Take your 90% of your Bitcoin, 90% of it, and move that into a cold card. Get yourself a cold card, move 90% of that into a cold card, and don't ever think about that. Don't ever think about moving it. That's going to be your Bitcoin for the rest of your life, and your kids' life, and their kids' life. That's how I want you to look at it. With the other 10%, you can, pay for a new hot tub or a new deck, whatever it is, or a new roof. Like utilizing the purchasing power there within Bitcoin and setting up some hot wallets that you can spend to buy different things in the future. But with that, or buy some altcoins with that. If you want to take 5%, somebody sends you this really good altcoin, you want to put 2% of your Bitcoin into it for a month. But don't ever touch your 90% stack there. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Ever. Over in the Zap stream chat, Crypto Ethan says, I remember playing around and downloading a Bitcoin wallet on my PC back in middle school, but I couldn't figure out how to get any, so I gave up. Should have done more research instead of dicking around in public school. That's kind of funny. And my mind instantly goes to my experience in high school. And this is how, I wouldn't say how old I am, but when I was in school, we had computer class. That's what it was called. Computer class. We had a computer room, and that was the only part of the school that had computers in it. So we would take this class to learn about computers. And I think that was like, 15 years ago? I think 15 years from today, we're not going to be talking about Bitcoin. There's not going to be any Bitcoin channels. There's not going to be any Bitcoin conferences. It's just going to be something that ties into everything in life, just like the internet did, just like computers have. So that's kind of where we are right now, is actually the computer course phase of Bitcoin in a different way, but that's kind of where we are right now. So Noah says, I've seen an option to buy credit cards, I think Unchained. Interesting. There you go. I did not know that. Learned something today. Over-the-counter service, that is. Okay, so they probably have to do some due diligence on you, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, I wouldn't advise buying Bitcoin with your credit card. Let's leave it there. Okay, what else we got here? Oh, okay, let's actually, while we're on the topic of altcoins, let's get to, this is kind of like the top 10 coins I saw somebody posted. So this is the top 10 coins. Obviously, Bitcoin's number one. But if you are somebody who's looking to diversify a little bit in Bitcoin, these are the top 10 coins. So let me share this. There you go. Number one, Bitcoin. Number two, Bitcoin. Number three, Bitcoin. So there you have it. There's your top 10 coins to have. That's good stuff. I don't even know where I found that, but it actually turned out to be perfect timing for that. So the last piece of news here, this Bitcoin news, by the way, every show we do a portion of, we start the show with some Bitcoin news, and is brought to you by, believe it or not, Bitcoin News themselves. So big shout out to Bitcoin News for supporting other Bitcoiners, for supporting this little wee channel here and helping us talk about what's going on in the world of Bitcoin. So you can check out their Twitter feed. I'm there every morning seeing what's going on. They just post the good stuff. It's not like every 5 minutes there's a new post. It's like all the main things that you need to see in Bitcoin are going to be on Bitcoin News Twitter feed. They also have a great YouTube channel. They do a kind of polished video once a week, and they also do a couple live versions every week. So check them out on their Twitter, and you can find their link in the description below here for the Bitcoin news. So this is what Bloomberg came out with yesterday. 1 million simulations, one verdict for the US economy, debt danger ahead. Bloomberg Economics ran 1 million forecast simulations on the US debt outlook. 88% of them show borrowing on an unsustainable path. 88%. Couple things to take away there. Number one, 88%. Good number. Number two, 1 million of these simulations were ran. So 88% of them on an unsustainable path, $34 trillion worth of debt. I would be very curious to see what those 12% simulations look like. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about what happened in those simulations where we got out of this $34 trillion worth of debt. Because I've never heard one argument or one even remotely intelligent conversation of how we pay back that $34 trillion in the next 1,000 years. So I don't know. That's what I would be interested in seeing, was what that 12% looked like what happened in those simulations where we ended up on a sustainable path. That's what I would be interested in. So anyways, just think logically. $34 trillion worth of debt. The government sold 30,000 Bitcoin the other day for that from their Silk Road fund. And for that, they received 2/3 of their daily interest payment on that debt. So 30,000 Bitcoin they sold. That helped them pay off 2/3 of their daily interest expense on that $34 trillion. So I don't know. We're just in such a weird place right now where it's like everybody knows what's happening, but there's really nothing that we can do about it. And most people are just keeping their heads in the sand, going to work, doing what they can to put food on the table, coming home, watching Netflix, and just hoping that things get better, hoping that somehow that $34 trillion will get repaid. Somehow the costs of everything will go down and they'd be able to pay off some of their credit cards, pay down their line of credit, start making some principal payments on their house. They're just hoping that it happens. So big shout out to you for being here, because we're not in that system anymore. We're buying Bitcoin, we're earning Bitcoin. And one of those currencies is going to go down forever. And one of those currencies is going to go up forever. And when people understand that, they're going to be in a much better position in their life. But unfortunately, we can't force it on them. Unfortunately, we can't force it on them. Palm says, people who understand money will stick with Bitcoin, although it's nice to have some alts just to ride the euphoria. But if I'm betting my 90% of my net worth, I'll stick with Bitcoin. Yeah, that's a great diversification strategy. Dan says he owns each of the top 10 coins. That's how you diversify. Darwin says, I don't know if I trust myself with a cold card. If I lose it, does my Bitcoin go with it forever? Is Tangent safer for me because you can have multiple cards? So with the cold card, the beauty of it is that there's actually a really cool, how can I phrase this? With the cold card, it probably is not something that you buy Bitcoin and then the next month you have a cold card. There's a learning process involved there with how everything works. And I think it's important that we talk about that whole process there in between that. But with the cold card, it is, once you wrap your head around how everything works in Bitcoin, it's very simple to set up. And it has nothing to do with trusting yourself. Even if, what you do with the cold card is you get that device, you get a steel plate. The cold card generates 12 words for you or 24 words for you. You punch those words into your steel plate, you hide that somewhere. And regardless of whatever happens in your life, your house could burn down tomorrow, you're still going to have those 12 words on that steel plate. And then if something happens to your house, and you still have those 12 words, you can put that into any compatible Bitcoin wallet and retrieve your funds, restore your funds. So it really has nothing to do with the device. The one thing that you really have to pay attention to, and I've actually seen a few people in my life, they buy a bunch of Bitcoin, they buy a cold card right away, they set up their PIN, and then they lose their 12 words because it's on a little wee piece of paper. It just gets mixed in with their office stuff. And then they forget their PIN. So then you're completely locked out of your cold card. So the very first steps with your cold card are the most important part. And once you get that set up, it's important that every couple of weeks and then every couple of months, you check in on that. Make sure that you have your 12 words. Make sure you know your PIN. You just type it in and it works. So with that, you just have to think of your cold card and your 12 words. If anybody were to access either of those, they essentially own your Bitcoin. But it's the same with any sort of wallet. So I don't think that that's really with a cold card only. One thing I would say on that is the new block device. I forget what it's called, the BitKey maybe. That is something that's good for people who don't trust themselves. That's what I would switch to. Is that Noah says switch to YouTube. Zap.stream is lagging. Interesting. Oh well. We're still working for me over here. Letha says, I didn't realize the steel plate puncher had a spring in it. I was trying to hit it with a hammer. Oh, well, Letha, I would say that you're definitely not the first person or the last person who will try doing that. But the punch that you put into your steel plate, you just basically press on it really hard, and it has a spring in it. So it punches into there. Like, I don't know what to compare it to, but yeah, you don't need a hammer for it. That's, I'm sure the hammer worked though. But the other option for that is you could just get like a nail and actually hammer a chunk of a nail in it. It's pretty cool. I wish I had one on hand here, but I don't. But I would always recommend if you these are kind of the thresholds. If you have 25 million Satoshis, quarter of a Bitcoin, get yourself a cold card, get yourself a steel plate. Because the majority of people, if their house burned down tomorrow, their Bitcoin would go with it. And ask yourself that question. If your house burnt down while you were sleeping or while you're at work today, would your Bitcoin survive? And if not, then it's probably time to invest in a steel plate. But one thing I was talking about there, if you don't trust yourself with holding a cold card, that's fine. Lots of people won't. Get yourself like a bit key. That's a new one. So you actually hold a key, and then I think Block holds a key, and then there's another company that holds a key to it. So it's 2 or 3 multi-signature, I think. You can contact them anytime you want to move your Bitcoin. But if something were to happen to your device, because the other 2 companies, separate companies, keep a copy of your key, you could retrieve those funds even if you lost yours. So I do think that's a very viable solution for a lot of people who don't trust themselves and don't want to go through the effort of and risk of getting a cold card. But I'm not in that party myself. I would much rather have possession myself. And with something like that, I think that it would be very rare for those 2 companies to collude and take your Bitcoin, but there still is a chance. Very low, but still a chance. So there we have it. Okay, where are we here? Where are we here in this mess? I think that's it. Have a good Friday, everybody. Just kidding. Let's get to 46 minutes later. Let's get to the heart of the show today. So the title of the show, if you're on YouTube, is called Starting Your Own YouTube Channel. If you're on Zap.stream, it's called Starting Your Own Zap.stream channel. And what I want to talk about here is that a couple things. I'm going to talk about why, and then I'm going to give some tips on what you can do and what you can expect if you are somebody who wants to start your own YouTube channel. So kind of how I see YouTube now, when YouTube first came out, it was just a bunch of dumb videos on there. It was a bunch of cat videos. I had a video from when I was like 10 years old, 12 years old. That was when Jackass was really big. Remember Jackass? So me and my friends did our own version of that. Maybe I'll share it in the chat someday, the video on there. It's pretty funny. But that was like 15 years ago, or maybe even more than that. That's when YouTube first came out. And that's kind of what it was. It was just like a funny thing. People were entertained by the different videos that you could post. Things went viral. But YouTube has really evolved. And the whole streaming, not just YouTube, but like Zap.stream, Rumble, all of these streaming services have basically become the new TV for people. And I was in our conversation yesterday when I was talking about Bitcoin, I said, like, our parents, if you think, or my parents, not our parents, but my parents, they didn't have that. They had a couple of ways to get their information. Number one was the TV, 3 channels. Number 2 was the radio. And number 3 was the newspaper. And if you're watching the show, I'm sure you're familiar with how that whole structure works and how the people at the top pull the strings there and decide what information gets out there. Local news, a little bit different, but like your worldwide, national, global news, that was all from the same people. They're all getting the exact same message, and they had absolutely no way to decipher the truth from what else could be happening in the world and what they're being told on those 3 mediums. So it makes a lot of sense that it's very hard for people that age, let's say 60 to 80. It's very hard for people in that age demographic to really understand Bitcoin, understand what's happening here, and understand that there could be more to the world than what they learned. That's a very hard reality for people, a lot of people, to really take in, is that everything that they've been taught, everything they've learned their entire lives in terms of like how the world works, was a lie. So nowadays, I think that kids are going to be much more set up for what's coming here because they have access to so much. They have YouTube, they have TikTok, they have Nostr now. I don't think there's many kids on Nostr yet, but they will. That'll be much more mainstream when they're once they're of age. But they're going to be much more set up for a decentralized world of news and information. And when they're equipped with that information, they're going to be able to make much better decisions with that. So Carl says, hey, now, I definitely didn't mean that in a bad way. And the fact that if you are somebody who's in that age category and you're watching this show or watching any sort of Bitcoin show, then you have a lot of respect in my eyes, because it is much harder to untrain your brain with a lot of things and admit the fact that everything you've learned in your life was a lie. That's a very hard reality to accept. And so I do have a lot of respect for people of that age who are learning about Bitcoin and who are taking the time to educate themselves on it. So anyways, I see YouTube as the new TV. I don't have cable news anymore. I don't have cable TV. I have Netflix still, which I occasionally watch. I like watching Trailer Park Boys on there. I like watching Mr. D on there. Things that make me laugh, pretty much. But outside of that, YouTube is my TV. It's what I do pretty much all day, is just watch different YouTube shows, learn as much as I can. And because now is the time to be doing that. And so with that, I think that the old days of TV, radio, news stations, resumes, all that kind of stuff is gone. I think that what you need to be focused now, and resume is another part of this. Like, remember resumes? I don't know. I haven't applied for a job for a while, but do people still do resumes? I don't know. Like, I've been interacting with people online for the last couple of years, and I've never sent them my resume. I send them to my website or my YouTube channel, and then they can see me. They can see my face. They don't need to see what I did back in high school and the 4-H club that I was in. They can see me and what I'm talking about today and what kind of knowledge I have. So I think that YouTube is the new TV. It's the new resume. And so I shouldn't say YouTube, but like your online persona, which includes YouTube, which includes Zap.stream, which includes Nostr. All of these things are when people want to connect with you or collaborate with you or work with you on anything, that's what they're going to go to. And if you don't have that, you're probably not going to get seen or noticed by anybody. And earlier in the week, I talked about how the fact that I don't think that there's going to be the employer-employee structure that we have today in 10 years. I think everybody's basically going to be their own boss. Everybody's going to be doing their own thing. So what you want to do to set yourself up for that is have this kind of built for when that time comes. So let's look at a couple examples here. But if I think there was one Pomp said about where did it go? How come I can't find it? Oh, there we go. Pomp says, I was actually planning to start a YouTube channel about my financial independence, retire early with Bitcoin. So that is one example. And here's the thing. You have to find something that you love talking about. You have to find something that you love talking about. And perfect example of that is yesterday. I did that whole show yesterday, an hour and a half long. And during that, there was a whole bunch of dead air because I was waiting for the transaction to be approved. And there's no way that I could have got through that video or even considered doing that video if I didn't love what I was talking about. And if if that wasn't my whole life, there's no way I could have talked about it. And here's what I want to say to you. If you are a realtor, if you are an accountant, if you are a lawyer, if you are anybody out there, what's another example? Financial advisor. This is how you're going to find people in the future. This is how people are going to find you in the future, is a YouTube channel, a blog post, whatever that is. That's how people are going to find you. And if you can get on there once a day and just talk about whatever's going on in your industry, if you have the level of conviction to sell whatever it is that you sell, you shouldn't have any sort of issues talking about that and being completely honest and transparent about it. We're kind of past the days of people writing a newspaper article and people reading that, and that's how people find you, because there's such a disconnect there now compared to what we have available with technology now. So think about that. If you're a financial advisor and if you really believe in what you're doing, you should have a YouTube channel. And you can talk about different things and add a lot of value to people's lives every single day. And if you are somebody, if people resonate with you, they're going to say, okay, well, my financial advisor is a dinosaur. He's on the golf course right now. He's still living in that old world. Whereas this guy, he's talking about things that I want to know about. And instead of just meeting with your clients once a year, this is a perfect way to keep that connection with them. Whether you want to do a live show, a weekly show, whatever that is, I think that this is the best place to be doing that right now. And it's going to set you up so well for the future. So that's a financial advisor. Let's look at a realtor. It's the same kind of thing. Even a home builder or an architect, whatever it is that you know, there's somebody out there who wants to learn about that. Whatever it is that you know, there's somebody out there who's wanting to learn about that today. And so when you're setting that up, when you're thinking about setting it up, when you're going through what you would talk about, put a big focus on your industry. Don't talk about what you're selling. Don't talk about your products or your services. You can mix it in once in a while, but put a big emphasis on your industry. That's what you're selling. And because people don't want to hear about your brand new product or whatever it is that you're selling to them, people don't want to be sold to. They want to learn things. And I think that the longer form YouTube videos, that if that's the crowd that you want to connect with, YouTube is a place for it. If you want to be like connecting with the young people who just like scrolling and watching 5 seconds of a video just to kill some time, then spend your time there. But if you want serious people who are serious about learning and furthering themselves, then YouTube channel long form is the way to do that. So talk about your industry. Share all the knowledge that you have. Whatever it is that you have, there's somebody out there who wants to learn that. And I'm sure if you spent this weekend and you wrote down all the different topics that you could speak of on your YouTube channel, you would be amazed. Because when I was about to start this YouTube channel, I couldn't believe I had about 3 pages of different topics that I wanted to discuss. I haven't had to check on it lately just because there's so much happening in the world right now in terms of Bitcoin. But you want to have that as kind of a backup. If you want to do a daily show, a weekly show, you always want to have some sort of backup in terms of what you can talk about the next day. And with that, even if you are somebody who has a job, has a business today, what you want to be doing is you don't have to leave that today. You don't have to quit your job, take less time out of your business. But this is what I would do. Every night, don't watch Netflix for an hour. Write down some ideas, write down some stuff you want to talk about the next day. And then the next morning before work, get up at sunrise. Start your show, 7:30 a.m., 6:30 a.m. Start your show. So the night before you prepare for it for an hour, the next morning you spend half an hour to an hour doing your show, and then you just get on with your day. And the first little while is going to be very painful. It's going to be very uncomfortable. But once you get into that rhythm and once you find your community there and the people who want to be there, it becomes much easier. And then part of the show, like today's, half of the show is just spent talking back and forth with people. Right? So that's what I would say on that. And the beauty of that too is if you are somebody who's looking for a way to earn Bitcoin, I can't think of a better way to do that. Get yourself onto a platform. You can stream it to like YouTube. You can stream it to Zap.stream, all with the same feed. And then you have Zap.stream there. You're earning Bitcoin every single day. I mean, off the start, it might be a little bit tough, but after a while, you have a steady source of income of Bitcoin from that. And then if you take it one step further, if you think about where technology is going, where AI is going, the more content you can have out there, the more you're going to be able to utilize AI and the tools around that. So whether that's customer service and somebody, they know your voice, they know your tone, they know how you think, that's part of it. You train an AI based on the content that you already have out there. And then you can, instead of doing a YouTube channel or responding to emails all day, the AI knows exactly what you're going to think, exactly what you're going to do, and they do that for you while you're out on the golf course. And if you think that sounds crazy, I don't think you've been paying close enough attention to what's happening here in the world. So that's something to think about. That's a little bit further down the road, but I think the more you can set yourself up and prepare for that time and those days, the better off you're going to be when that time comes. And so you can be paying your AI, you can be training your AI, you can be paying your AI to do these jobs for you based on your content, based on your exact thoughts, and paying them in Bitcoin. So you're earning Bitcoin, you're holding Bitcoin, you're using that Bitcoin as leverage for the future, and you're tying this whole thing together. So it could be anything. If you are somebody who wants to do it in relation to your job, whatever it is that you do, if you think that there's somebody out there who wants to learn about it, that's one. But the other thing is just if you have any sort of interest in the world, whether that's swimming, golf, hockey cards, whatever it is, whatever you love talking about and you can talk about without even having to think about it, that's what you want to be doing, or both. I found a way to talk about golf, talk about Bitcoin a little bit, and do it every day because it's easy for me to talk about. So that's what I would say. Sebastian over in Zap.stream zapped 121 sats. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. So I do understand that this is not going to be for everybody. And that's how, unfortunately, when you do a show every day, it's not going to be applicable to everybody. But I do hope that at least one or two people after watching this show today start their own YouTube channel. And I know from our Living in the Future membership that we have, there's already been a few people within that group who have taken that first step and started their own YouTube channel. So it's pretty cool to see. And this is just even though we're like 20 years into this YouTube thing and this Bitcoin thing, this is still the very early days of it. So the better that you can prepare yourself today, the better you're going to be in the future. So that's kind of what I had today. And the last part here, a couple things. I would say 4 tips, very simple tips for starting your own YouTube channel. Number 1, be patient. You're not going to start a channel tomorrow and all of a sudden be earning a bunch of Bitcoin, earning a bunch of money. You have to be patient. Over time, whatever, so let's say you're talking about hockey cards or Pokemon cards. There are going to be people who want to listen to that. There are going to be people who show up. And even if you don't get paid by YouTube, there's probably some sort of sponsor within that industry who would be willing to sponsor your show every day. And even if that's like a 10% or 20% increase of your income every month, that's a big deal. And it's only going to grow. So be patient, number 1. Number 2, be consistent. That is the key to everything in life, but especially with this kind of stuff, is be consistent. Do it every day at the same time or every week at the same time. Be consistent so that your audience knows that you're going to be there every day. They can put that as part of their daily routine. Don't just start making a whole bunch of random videos. I mean, it's a good first step, but you want to be consistent with it. You have to put yourself in the other person's shoes who's watching that content and make it part of their day. Be consistent. That is the key to everything. Number 3, be honest. You're putting yourself out there. When you're doing live shows, you can't really lie. Well, some people can, but you have to be honest. And people can tell through the screen if you're lying or if you're being sincere about things. So just be honest. Even if there's something that you don't really love talking about, you have to be honest with things because people really appreciate that. And the last one here, number 4, is be yourself. Whatever that is. Don't try to be somebody else. If you're not a real, cheery guy, or if you're not a real funny guy, then don't tell jokes. Be yourself. Do however you talk. If you're a calm person, if you're a really high energy person, don't try to be somebody that you're not, because it's not going to last very long. It kind of ties in with the honesty stuff. You can only get away with that kind of stuff for so long, but you have to be honest and you have to be yourself. And the longer you go, the more people will be able to read that from you. And if you're dishonest and if you're trying to be somebody that you're not, people are going to pick up on that and they're just going to leave. So those are 2 keys. And regardless of whatever that self is of you, there's somebody out there who will be relating to you. Like, think about how many people are in this world. Think about how many people have your shared interests. And this new economy, the internet and Bitcoin, has expanded that to the entire world, where we didn't have that 20 years ago. If there was nobody in your town with your interests, you were very alone in the world, but it's not the case anymore. So consider that. And before we go, I want to give, I was actually going to try to, maybe we'll do it. For those who've stuck around, what are we at? Over an hour here? That's okay. It's Friday. We can go a little bit long today. Where's this thing? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little experiment before we go on a Friday. So I want to point you guys to this store. This is a Bitcoiner. You might be watching today. I'm not sure, but I'm going to bring this up. There we go. Oh, that's the wrong one. Imagine if I just accidentally shared a screen that was like a very inappropriate screen that I had on. That's always my fear on here. Not that I have that on the computer here, but you never know what's going to come up. Okay, so this is taking a lot of data by the looks of it, or a lot of broadband bandwidth. So this is juxtapose.store. This is a very beautiful website designed in Chicago, Illinois, USA. Juxtapose means contrasting effect. And this is from our friend Eric. This is his website. I created Juxtapose to share my creativity and appreciation for Bitcoin, spread the love and share it with the world. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to try buying a shirt live on the air. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to try to buy this 21 million ghost tee. $25. Oh, we also have a discount code as well. Let me find that. Sorry, this is just a bonus part of the show today. Where is the discount code? Should have had this a little bit more prepared, but that's okay. Well, I guess I won't be able to use the discount code. There is one, though. We do have a discount code for this. Okay, we're going to try 88 sats. That's what we got here. So we're going to select the size, double XL. Just joking, medium. I'm going to add it to the cart. I'm going to take this off the screen to enter in my personal information. Good security practice. This is the kind of stuff you get live on the air. Unfortunately, you have to look at my face for about a minute here as I see this, but it shouldn't take very long. Hopefully it ships to my little town here. Okay. So I'm going to complete the invoice here. Let's bring this up on the screen. Let's see if this works. Can we see that? Yes. So I'm going to go, oh, I didn't put in my discount code. Do I have one? Does it work? Probably should have done a test run here, but that's okay. I'm just going to go no discount code, but we do have a discount code for the show. I'm not going to use it today, but I'm going to ask Eric how to use it because I can't figure it out. Okay, so this shirt is $34. I'm going to press send. You can see it on my screen right there. Oh, that's not what we want. $34. I'm going to send it. 36,000 sats. There we go. Oh, look at that on the screen too. Payment complete. Okay, so let's take this off. I probably already doxed myself by accident there. Yeah, I did. Oh, well. It just shows my box number. Somebody can send me stuff if they want to. So let's complete the purchase. There we go. We're paid. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get this shirt. I'm going to wear it one day on the show. And I want you to check out Eric's page. It's juxtapose.store. I'm going to put a link in the description. I'm going to put the discount code in there, and I'm going to message Eric just to see how you utilize that discount code. Because I think people here are going to get, I think it's 10 or 15% off. Anyways, I just bought a shirt with Bitcoin live on the air, and people say that you can't buy anything with Bitcoin. So there you have it, folks. Check out juxtapose.store. He's got some great Bitcoin merch on there. And I do anticipate a future collaboration with King Golf. So support your local Bitcoiner, get yourself a shirt, pay with Bitcoin. It's a beautiful thing. I want you to have the best Friday of your entire life today. Be calm, be collective, start making, or not collective, cheerful. Start making a list of things that you could talk about on a YouTube channel and get uncomfortable here for a little while. It will pay off in the long run. So there you have it, folks. Appreciate you all very much. Press the like button on the way out, or don't. Doesn't really matter, but I would appreciate it. So have a good Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here first thing on Monday morning. Bye-bye.